Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Kodanitai Jaya Maya Pursachi Jaya Kodanitai Jaya Maya Pursachi. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Madhava ki Jai, Shri Kadindaya Mein Pursachi Bhagwan ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Vijitavana ki Jai, Intai Gauravanande. Devotees emphasized that Detroit was the crime capital of US. And that the poor slum area where the mansion was located was known for drug trafficking, robberies and murders. But Srila Prabhupada repeated that they should not be afraid. I lived in the Bowery, he said, and he described how the bums used to urinate on his front door and lie across the doorway. But when he would come to enter the building, they would get up and say, "Yes, sir, come on, sir, get the place," Prabhupada said, and chant Hare Krishna there, 24 hours a day. If a thief comes, we will say, "Yes, first take prasadam and then take wherever you want." What do we have? Srila Prabhupada went to see the mansion with Govardhana, Ambarisha, and several GBC men. They were met by the owner and a lady who introduced herself as a real estate agent. Or it's another story started, but we should just stop here. It's such an nectar to read, Prabhupada's stories. You remember the story when devotees buy this temple in Detroit? Actually, that was Ambarish Maharaj. He was grandson of Gendra Ford, I believe. Yeah, great devotee, and he's the disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And this Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir, in Shidam Mayapur, also built. He gave a lot of donation, for this building. And this was so that was actually the first temple they would like to buy in Detroit. And there's some, crime part of the city. And but Prabhupada say we should buy this temple, And after some time, after years, this became like, prime part of the city, one of the best. So, and this estate price rise very up. Yeah. So that was happening actually, when we opened the temple. We have the same story in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. Actually, the place, this particular part of the city where we have this temple, it was like one of the most crime part of the city. Just very poor part of the city, and a lot of, again, these people who use drugs and etc. And now, it became like not the center, but very prestigious part, of the city. After years, maybe like 20, 30 years late, everything changes. So the process work. So if you would like to invest some money for real estate, you should buy some property in this Mexico area. The price will rise. Okay, sorry, Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Sheva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, Text 21, I believe, yeah? Ekaksrijati bhutani Bhagavanatmamayaya Sambandham cha moksham cha Sukham dukkham cha nishkala Ekaksrijati bhutani Bhagavanatmamayaya Sambandham cha moksham cha Sukham dukkham cha nishkala Ekasrijati Bhutani Bhagavanatma Mayaya Eshabandam Cha Moksham Cha Sukham Dukham Cha Nishkala Ekasrijanti Bhutani Bhagavanatma Mayaya Eshambandam Cha Moksham Cha Sukham Dukham Cha Nishkala Ekaksrijati Bhutani Bhagavanatma Mayaya Eshabandham Cha Moksham Cha Sukham Dukham Cha Nishkalaha Ekaksrijati Bhutani Bhagavanatma Mayaya Eshabandham Cha Moksham Cha Sukham Dukham Cha Nishkalaha Ekaksrijati Bhutani Bhagavanatma Mayaya Eshabandham Cha Moksham Cha Sukham Dukham Cha Nishkala Eka 1. Srijati creates Bhutani, different varieties of living entities. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atmamayaya, by his personal potencies. Esham, of all the conditioned souls. Bandham, the conditional life. Cha, and Moksham, the liberation life, the liberated life. Sorry. Cha, also. Sukham, happiness. Dukham, distress. Cha, and Nishkala, not affected by the material qualities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, unaffected by the conditions of the material world. He creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency because of being contaminated by the material energy. The living entity is put into ignorance and thus into different conditions of bondage. Sometimes by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation. In Sattva Guna and Raja Guna, he is subjected to happiness and distress. I will translation one time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one by the conditions of the material world. He creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency. Because of being contaminated by the material energy, the living entity is put into ignorance and thus into different conditions of bondage. Sometimes, by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation. In Sattva Guna and Raja Guna, he is subjected to happiness and distress. The question may be raised, why the living entity are seated in different conditions and who arranged this? The answer is that it has been done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without anyone's help, the Lord has his own energies. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shvete. And one of them, namely the external energy, creates the material world and the varieties of happiness and distress for the conditioned souls under the supervision of the Lord. The material world consists of three moods of material nature: Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna. By Sattva Guna, the Lord maintains the material world By Rajaguna he creates it, and by Tamaguna he annihilates it. After the varieties of living entities are created, they are subjected to happiness and distress according to their association. When they are in Sattvaguna, the mood of godness, they feel happiness. When in Rajaguna, they are distressed. And when in Tamaguna, they have no sense of what to do or what is right and wrong. Kaksrijati bhutani bhagavanatma mayaya esham bandham cha moksham cha sukham dukham cha nishkala. Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, unaffected by the conditions of the material world. He creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency. Because of being contaminated by the material energy, the living entity is put into ignorance and thus into different conditions of bondage. Sometimes, by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation. In Sattvaguna and Rajaguna, he is subjected to happiness and distress. Om Manganatimirandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Mritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupach Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vachakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Krishna 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 Hare Krishna. Krishna Svadham Pagate Dharma Gyanati Viksa. This Bhagavata Purana is rise on the horizon, when the Kali Yuga came, and Krishna, like, go away, Bhagavatam appear in this world, rise on the horizon, in this Kali Yuga. Puranarko, Nodita. This wonderful Bhagavata Purana is Krishna himself. And I'm reading from this very sweet sixth canto of Bhagavatam. This Chitraketu Maharaja story. This part of Bhagavatam, in my opinion, is glorifies, devotees and devotional servers. We know the story. Chitraketu Maharaj was cursed by Parvati, and he accepts this curse. He just he folded his hands and accepted this curse. Even he was able to stop it, to curse her back, whenever. But he accepted it, and in such a way he showed all of us, how really Vaishnava should be acting. And after Chitraketu Maharaja, he speaks, he pronounced wonderful prayers. I will read it in just a few words. Chitraketu said, "My dear mother, with my own hands folded together, I accept the curse upon me. I do not mind the curse. Happiness and distress are given by the demigods as a result of one's past deeds. Deluded by ignorance, the living entity wanders in the forests of this material world, enjoying the happiness and distress resulting from the past deeds. Everywhere and at all times, Therefore, my dear mother, neither you nor I am to be blamed for this incident. In this material world, neither the living entity himself nor others, friends and enemies, are the cause of material happiness and distress. But because of gross ignorance, the living entity thinks that he and other are the case. This material world resembles that waves of a constantly flowing river. Therefore, what is a curse and what is a favor? What are the heavenly planets and what are the hellish planets? What is actually happiness and what is actual distress? Because the waves flow constantly, none of them has an eternal effect. Finally, today's verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one. Now Chitaketa Maharaj is explaining this, what he said before. Like there is no such a thing in the material world. All these things like happiness and distress is like waves of the river. It comes and go. And in this verse again, this sukham dukham cha nishkalach. Actually, it's the same where Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita start his instructions. Matra sparshastukam taya shitoshnaskha dukhadaha agama vaino nityas tam statiksha bharata. So the same again, sukham dukham. That here also sukham dukham, happiness and distress. And this verse again, the same word, the same words. And it's like beginning of our devotional service to try to be not convinced by the happiness and distress of this material world. And actually, if we try to remember the moment we joined, devotees, it was some period of life when we're looking for some. Everyone in this material world try to be happy. Actually, that's what we're trying to do. We try to study, I don't know, in school, in university, to have this PhD, finish it and get a nice job, to become a rich person, to be married and have kids, whenever, everything we try to do here, we try to do just to become happy. And most of the people of this world, they really think they are happy, they have no problem with this type of happiness. They live in such obstacles, they have everything this, and they don't think that there are something more. At least for now, they're just living, and if you tell something about death, just bad topic to speak with people. They don't want to speak about this. It's no. That's what usually happens. But there are very few, people who really doesn't satisfied with this material happiness. Who realize they are doesn't satisfied, and they try to look. They're searching for something more. They're looking for something more, and this is the moment actually when we're ready to accept Krishna consciousness, when we're ready to accept spiritual master in our life. This moment when we really realize I will not be satisfied with all this happiness in the material world, who never came from me. Even heavenly planets will not satisfy me. When I was thinking about this first, I tried to remember this moment in my life. I was like 17 years old. I entered university. The whole of my life I was thinking that's the goal of life, just to enter university and to make a nice career. And and I entered this university, and I was also at the same time I was studying. I have high grades, At the same time, you know, I had to work, you know, just to maintain myself, just to earn some money to live. I was work, and it's happening. So I was working like in a restaurant, you know, and that was like the best restaurant in the city. It was a big city, quite big city, like 2 million people. So you know, all the celebrities, all this politics, all this, you know, influential people, they visit this restaurant, you know. And I was like 17, and I have this conception of happiness that okay, I will rise, I will, you know, I will finish my PhD, I will have this, you know, nice job, earn a lot of money, and I will become a rich person, and I will be happy, you know. This type of happiness, I remember this. And you know, at the same time, I saw these people who already have all this, you know, they already rich, they already have, you know, this fame, everything we can imagine, you know, just very rich people. And they came, and you know, and I saw them, I just very close, I have very close association, you know, by serving them. And I realized at that moment, you know, they doesn't have, you know, they feel they have the same problems I have as a student. You know, I have one type of problem, they have another type of problem. They have this problem. You know, they're suffering, and they're really suffering even more than me. You know, even I have no money, they have money, but they're suffering even much more than me. You know, they have much more problem. They used, you know, they need to drink alcohol just to forget about, you know, what's happening in their lives. They need to use, you know, just use drugs, whatever, you know. And I saw and I was 17, and I see all this picture in front of me. This was, and what to do, you know, in my life. It was some kind of, you know, my inner search, because I realized that I didn't want to be the same as they, you know, they are. But what to do, you know, where is another? If not money, what is the goal of life? And that was the way, you know, I was trying to search for something more, you know, for God, for I was started my spiritual life from, you know, from going for Christian church, Orthodox church actually. And after few years, I met devotees, you know. Yeah, and I'm sure that, you know, all of us, we have such stories, you know, in our life. If you try to remember when we came in this moment, first there was some type of, you know, I forgot, I don't know how to say this word in English, but you know, you realize this happiness in the material world doesn't attack you anymore in such a way, you know. Yes, maybe it will be nice, you know, to have money, to have everything. Not bad, okay, yes, but not enough, you know, not enough for me. I need something more. I need something more. And yeah, that's actually where our spiritual life can be started. Let's come back to the verse. So Sukham Dukham Chinese Kalach. Also Bhagavan Atmamaya. There this purport consists from, I believe, like two main parts. In first, Srila describes as the question may be raised why the living entities are situated in different conditions and who has arranged this. The answer is that it has been done by Supreme Personality of Godhead, without anyone's help. And so we know that God has like three energies. Like, of course, He has a lot of energies like Parasya Shakti, Hridaya Shakti, but we can like three main of them. Bahiranga Shakti, Antaranga Shakti, and Tataska Shakti. Yes, how to say in English? External, eternal, and marginal. Such wonderful. Yeah, sometimes Sanskrit is easier for me than English. So yeah, marginal is Tataska Shakti. It's who we are. Marginal importance, marginal energy of the Lord. And this material world is created by His external energy. All this, you know, material world, all these elements like air, earth, fire, water, ether, ether, yeah. And like all this, our senses, and like 24 elements, 24 elements, and this all this material guna of material nature, sattva, rajas, tama guna, It's all his, external energy, and where he's like the Dasa Shakti, imaginary, energy, and our position is to be under the control, under the control of his, but all the choice we have to be under the control of his external energy or internal energy. So, and conditioned soul, that's the soul who is under the control of his external energy. In other words, under the control of the three gunas of material nature. And in the second part of the purport, Srila explains us these three gunas of material nature: Sattva guna, Raja guna, and Tama guna. By Sattva guna, the Lord maintains the material world. By Raja guna, he creates it, and Tama guna, he annihilates it. After the varieties of living entities are created, they are subjected to happiness and distress according to their association. Very important point, according to their association. When they are in Sattva guna, in the mood of goodness, they feel happiness. In Raja guna, distress, and when in Tama guna, they no sense of what to do or what is right and wrong. This last one is just very practical for us. This Tama guna. People really live in this world and they don't even know, what is nice, what is not, what to do, or what is right and wrong. And it is the way of most people living in our society. They have some, their own ideas of what is right, what is wrong. I think that I would like to do that. But that it's we have something in Ukrainian language. It sounds like you can be. There are only two types of people who are happy. Just completely fools and like liberated people. So yeah, there's a happiness of ignorance. People ate, another living entity's bodies and think this is tasty. They think they're happy, by this. It's a strange idea. If you just be a vegetarian, like, 1 year, it's unimaginable for you just to see how people, what they eat, and when they know that you're a vegetarian, what was the first thought came for their mind, like you eat grass, something like this, and what do you eat, they don't even know what is tasty meal. It is, happiness in Tamaguna. What's happening in this world. What else I would like to say about these verses? And so, this Chitraketu Maharaja, he glorifies, and his example, of Vaishnava. When Parvati and Shiva, they saw his reaction, how he reacted on this curse, they were just, Lord Shiva said, now you see who is Vaishnava, who is real Vaishnava is. No. It's and this Bhagavata Purana is actually this Purana for Vaishnavas. It started from this Nigam kalpataror galitam bhalam shukmukha dravyam rita samyutam pibra bhagavatam rasamalayam muharho rasika bhavikaha. Remember the third verse of the first canto of Bhagavatam. Nigama kalpataror galitam bhalam shukmukha dravyam rita samyutam. Now drink this nectar, Bhagavad Purana. It came from Shukadeva Goswami, and that is why it became even more tasty, even more sweet. So Vaishnavas, they would like to describe, all these topics. They would like not to describe all these, mundane topics of this world, this politics, this news, everything. But they would like to describe these topics of Bhagavatam, because it gives them real happiness, not temporary, but real happiness. It's an interesting story, very interesting thing actually. When we sit and just describe Bhagavatam, just chant Krishna's holy name, and the process is broken. We can feel this happiness. Just describing the stories from Bhagavatam about Krishna himself, about his devotees, his great devotees, about their relationship between each other, and this is a way. Actually, on this platform, that's the only way we can go above these three gunas of material nature. Mamche vicharina patiyogena sevate sagunan samantitetan brahma bhaya kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14:26, I believe. Yeah. We have in Ukraine we have GBC, His Grace Chatopriya Prabhu, and sometimes he speaks something like, don't tell me what principles you can follow or not. If speaking about this, following these four regulative principles, he says, don't tell me what you can follow or not. Just tell me what sadhana you follow. If you wake up early in the morning, you have a japa, chanting japa properly, if you read Bhagavatam every day, if you have at least 1 hour a day kirtan, then yes, I'm sure you can follow these principles. If you don't follow this, you just can't follow these principles. And because otherwise, this material guns of material nature, they will take over us, all our consciousness, and we're just unable to, because that's our nature, to become happy. To be happy, that's our real nature. Like Satchitananda, that's the nature of the soul. We can't, just be in some, I don't know, Brahman without happiness. We need this Ananda. And if we're not looking for this Ananda, for this happiness in our sadhana, if we're not looking at it in kirtanam, in shravanam, kirtanam, what is this? We will be here to just looking for this happiness in this material world. So on our level, it's very important to follow our sadhana bhakti process. Try to find this happiness in this process, and that will give us this protection from these three gunas of material nature. I would like to make a pause here. Maybe there are any comments or questions.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that nice class. Nice to hear some of your personal experience in Bhakti Yoga. You were saying that when a person comes to the point where they realize that this material happiness isn't all in all, it's not going to fully satisfy us, then this is a prerequisite to practicing Krishna consciousness. So my question is, we see a lot of the time that there's people who are on some sort of spiritual quest, they're looking for something spiritual, but they're not at the same time wanting to practice Krishna consciousness. Just wondering if you could share any insight on that.
Maybe please can you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah. So there's people who they're looking for something spiritual, or they're looking to turn away from material life, but they're not looking to practice Krishna consciousness. Say.
Mm-hmm. So the question is why they don't look for Krishna consciousness? I think it's obvious. It's people. Krishna consciousness is not so easy. It's not like diamond. Not many people who are really can appreciate the diamonds. And that's the example Prabhupada gave for us. And I try to remember this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. Brahman Dabamita Havala Bhagavan Jiva. Yeah. So, it's a long story actually. It's quite a long story. I mean, the only way people can accept Krishna consciousness if devotee gives for people Krishna consciousness. Even Krishna can't give Krishna consciousness for another people. It can be done only by devotee. I mean, of course, Krishna can everything, but at the same time, he doesn't give Krishna consciousness for everyone. It's what he doing by his devotee. He gave his mercy for his devotee, and devotee he can distribute, Krishna for everyone. So the only way for people they accept Krishna consciousness is, it's not about, because it's not about all this so-called material, blessings or for nice austerity or in the past times we do right or wrong. Krishna consciousness is not about this. The only way to get Krishna consciousness is by the mercy of the devotee. It's not about, you can go and plant the trees, I don't know, how says this, water in the ground. Well, yeah, to how you could take a well, or I don't know, gave some, I don't know, the sesame seeds for Brahma in proper time. I don't know, anything what you're thinking about good karma before, it doesn't give you Krishna consciousness. The only way to become Krishna consciousness is just to receive it from another devotee. And that's what's happening with us, It's not about, our qualification we came for Krishna consciousness. It's, I think, mostly about our disqualification. Like, Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's very merciful for most fallen. And at the same time, Chilarupada, he's really Patita Pavana. And just by prayers of devotees, I don't know how it's happened actually. Maybe you just were walking out of the street and some devotee saw you suffering so much and pray for you, or maybe you just walking and there was Harinam walking close and you have heard the sound of Shri Harinam. I remember again, I remember the story. I was 17. I was working, it's like I was a student. I have no money. I was working in the center of the city, and some guy came for me, and he gave me, this one book, and he, please take this book, And I was first, I was afraid, is it some second, what's happening? He gave me this sort of kind of Bhagavatam with Varahadev on this, Lord Varahadev. We have 3 parts of second of Bhagavatam in Ukraine, so it's like Varahadev story. And he gave me this book, and he, please read this book. I said, I have no money. No problem. You can give any donation you have. You can give me just any donation. No, I have some coins in my pocket because I was a student. I really have no money. And I was thinking, and I was feeling, so pity about this guy who was he was such a nice guy. He was such a humble person, such a nice guy. But I feel so pity about him. I was thinking, this guy, he should be in some sect, but he's like a nice person. And my idea was just, okay, I would like to make for this guy have a smile on his face, just to become a little more happy, And I gave these coins for him. He gave me this Bhagavatam, and I even tried to open it to read it. I just opened this Bhagavatam, and there was something like, "Oh my Lord, I would like to be a Dasa at your lotus feet," And that was, and after there was some description of, Karandakashaya Vishnu, Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, Kshiradakashaya Vishnu, all this Lord Vishnu who, when he breathed, all this universes came and out of him, and there was what is this, But I remember that Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the only thing I remember about this book. But I feel pity for him, but I'm sure that he was pitiful. he was praying for me. And because I take this book, Prabhupada's book, I hold it in my hand, I try to read it. After some time, by mercy of Prabhupada, after a few years, I was ready to start to visit the temple every Sunday program. It's a long story, another long story, but again, yes, no qualification, no, just millions of people like me, who was like students, walking on the streets, but by the mercy of devotee, what else I have, I never, I never heard about Hare Krishna even before, never, because I was born in a very small city and was raised in a very small village, and I never see devotee before. But I believe this was the first time I saw devotees. Yes, so that's how it works. The only way just to preach. So people, you should go and distribute books and distribute Harinama. We should arrange home program. We should arrange Harinam, especially in big cities. Yeah, because usually, people who live in big cities, it's much more easy to find persons who are ready to accept Krishna consciousness. Because first of all, there are much more people, much more young people who are in the search. They're seeking for some essence of life, and so what we should do, we should preach for people. Not because we are already, we are like devotees, but we try to be devotees. We try to give people what we already received from devotees, from another devotee. And this is the way to please Prabhupada. This is how our process works. Yeah. Is it answer your question? Thank you. It's a wonderful question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. Kindly elaborate a bit this in the translation. It says, sometimes by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation. What knowledge, what liberation is this, and what is the process like?
Yeah, I was thinking about this also, but I have to have the right answer, because just it's kind of my speculation. I was reading this proper, also I was reading this verse, yes. But if you can think a little more about this translation, because of being committed ignorance and thus in sometimes by knowledge the living entity is given liberation. In Sattva Guna and Raja Guna, he is subjected of happiness and distress. Because in my opinion, but it's nothing. Knowledge and liberation, yes. If you have liberation by knowledge, it can be only by this kind of liberation like moksha. I mean, not Vaishnava's type of liberation. It's a liberation when we just rising in Brahman. And so for me, it sounds like for the way for Gyanis, who by knowledge they can rise on this platform of unpersonal Brahman. Impersonal. How to say it properly in English? Impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman, yeah. So, because otherwise, I don't think this Prabhupada will be speaking about, another type of liberation in this context. So I believe that's what he means here. So, but again, this temporal position, this impersonal Brahman means like sometime you are up there, you're shining, but it's very boring for you, because your soul and your nature you have an active nature, It's like the same example when you fly on your airplane, and for example, here in Scotland, it's a gray sky usually. Finally. Yes, but usually it's some kind of gray sky, and it's rain, and you sit in your airplane, you fly. under the clouds, and you can see very nice blue sky and sun. Finally, it exists. Sun is exist. And you see the sun, and you see these clouds under the plane. It's very nice. It's very beautiful, very peaceful, quite wonderful picture. But if you fly, for example, for India, like 7 hours, and you saw clouds, beautiful clouds, again clouds. It's so boring after some time. Just it's really boring. Just because we have our nature is to serve. It's our nature. We cannot serve. This morning I was working here, and it's rain. It was real rain, but people was working with their dogs. Again, just matter sparsha to count. They have, again, this. Whenever, just shitoshna suka dukkha. Whenever happens, they working with their dogs every morning. That is their sadhana. They were restricting their sadhana. And so I lost this point. I gave this example. Yeah. So again, people serve their dogs. At least they serve for their dogs. It's okay. Just because you cannot serve. Because it's like sugar supposed to be sweet. Water, has its own nature, but our nature is to serve. And that is our happiness. It's the only thing that can bring us happiness. So if you just rise in this Brahman, and what kind of happiness it is, just you can't didn't act for a long time. Yeah. So in this context, I believe in this verse is speaking about this kind of liberation, because by knowledge you can achieve only this type of liberation. You can't achieve, real liberation only by knowledge. The real liberation you can achieve only by Krishna's mercy and by serving your spiritual master, by serving devotees, and by the process of bhakti yoga. Is that a question? I think a little over time, so thank you so much for your attention. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shilpada Pachita Pavana ki, Jagora Premanande.
Prabhu ki